Hello everyone, welcome to Beijing. Today I want to talk to you about a story of a woman's survival, how she tried everything to stay not only in power, but to actually not get killed. Hello everyone, welcome to Harry's Book Cafe. Today I want to do a book review of the Empress Orchid. Now this book I have read a couple of days ago. I purchased it a long time ago, but haven't had the chance. But because I'm coming to Beijing, I decided to give it a read. And what a book it was. Absolutely fantastic. Really well written. I enjoy the sentences. So the story is actually based on a real historical event. And that's the Qing dynasty around 1800, so 19th century China, Imperial China. The story is about a sort of like a normal girl, has nothing to do with the imperial family. In fact, she wasn't exactly born in poverty, but because her dad was actually a small governor in a tiny sort of province. It's not even a province, just a village. But he was a very good sort of governor for that village, for that town. But during that historical sort of period, what happened in China was there was a peasant revolt called Taipei Revolt. And the peasants were so fed up with being starved, being bullied, and they decided to rebel. Now, it started as a grassroots movement, but there's an old saying in China, when the grass is dry, sort of a teeny bit of spark, a teeny bit of spark would result in a wildfire. And that's exactly what happened. So the rebellion gathered strength to strength, sort of swallow one province to the next. And then the emperor was really worried, and the emperor wanted the local official to impose really tough rules, trying to quell the storm of this revolt. Unfortunately, the main protestants, her father was unable to put down the rebellion, and as a result of that, he was fired. Lucky for him, actually, because many officials were beheaded because of their inability to quell the rebellion. So he, in a way, was let off quite easily. He merely lost his job, and with that, his livelihood. And though it was not to his own fault, he felt that he had somehow let the emperor down, and that emotion destroyed him physically. Soon he found himself coughing non-stop, and then very quickly after that, he passed away. Now, he spent all his money, family money. I mean, he wasn't very rich to start with, but he basically spent all his money in the hope of curing his illness. By the time he dies, the family had virtually no money left. But his one wish was to be buried in Beijing, where the imperial capital was, or still is actually. So the family then decided to get him a coffin and then walk from where he was to Beijing, and that's a long way off. During the journey, they spent all their money, what remaining money they had, and the ladies, the wife, had to sell her jewelries in order to pay for the coffin burials to continue the journey. Now, when even that was exhausted, they still haven't reached Beijing, and the coffin bearers just left them. So, because of the long and treacherous journey, the body started to smell, and the coffin, there was a scene where she described the coffin, the lid of the coffin, although the coffin was closed, but the lid of the coffin was covered like a blanket with flies. But as they faced this disaster, they couldn't go forward anymore because simply there isn't any money left. They were lucky enough to meet a local official who actually paid them because the official would take pity on them, because they thought, okay, the daughter and the wife was really pious, trying to get their husband where he wanted to bury it. So he took pity on them and paid them money to continue the journey. And that's what they did. Once they got to Beijing, they have a single relative, and that's so Orchid, right? So the book is called Empress Orchid. At the time, she wasn't Empress, of course. So she was just a normal girl, now suffering in poverty. Now, she has a single relative in Beijing, and that's her uncle. Her uncle very, very, very reluctantly helped her and her mother and the other two siblings. In order to sort of take advantage of the situation, her uncle wanted Orchid to marry his son. Now, his son, physically not attractive at all. I think she described him looked like a goat or something to that effect. Can't remember exactly how she phrased it. The other problem is he's not all there as well, so he's a little bit challenged upstairs. So she really did not want to marry him. So in order to get out of this marriage, she applied to be the wife of emperor. And lucky for her, there was a sort of competition at the time. They were looking for 7 wives. And thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of women and girls from all over China came to Beijing in the hope of being selected as the emperor's next wife. Now, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. She was successful, and she was selected as the 4th wife of the emperor. Hi there, just before we continue with the actual book review, I want to tell you a little bit more about women's status in the imperial palace back in the days in China. Only then can we fully appreciate where the book is going. So, women, even the wives or mistresses of the emperor at the time, although had very, very special status amongst other people, they are certainly not special in the eyes of the emperor. So the emperor himself, the one that we are talking about back in 1850, 1860, he had over 3,000 mistresses and 7 wives. Now, most of those women will spend the rest of their lives in the palace without seeing the emperor. Not even once, or perhaps once, and that's it. The emperor certainly will not sleep with them, not even one night. So what happened to those women is they will become bitter. Understand this, every single one of them are especially stunning, otherwise they wouldn't be selected to be the mistresses of the emperor. But they will spend most of them rest of their life in the palace without seeing him. And what happened is those women will live in first hope, then despair. They will grow jealous of the one who actually captured the heart of the emperor. Their heart will be filled with resentment. They are, each and single one of them, especially beautiful, and yet those beauty and their age and their innocence will die away, withered like a flower, and all this innocence and beauty and ambition will die one single falling pebble at a time, petal. So Orchid certainly want to avoid what happened, but she was really, really new to the Forbidden City. She doesn't know the rules. She doesn't know how to capture the emperor's hearts. Fortunately for her, she was assigned with a very talented and clever archer. I don't know how you pronounce that word. I'll put it here. So basically means man who has been castrated. For the rest of the video, because I don't know how to pronounce that, I will just call him her assistant. So her assistant was really ambitious and clever and really do care about her well-being. And he has been into the palace for quite a long time. He was able to show her the rope. And through his endeavors, she was able to bribe her way. I mean, come on. She was his 4th wife. But since going to the palace for the entire year, she hadn't seen him once. The emperor suddenly didn't call her to his bed. But because of her assistant's cleverness, ambition, she managed to actually meet one night with the emperor. Now, that one night was enough for the emperor. And I don't want to go into details. It's not what you thought. But anyway, so she was able to spend every other night with him for the rest of the next 6 months or so, and as a result of that, she managed to get pregnant. Now, pregnancy is not a small deal in the imperial palace at all. In fact, it's perhaps the biggest deal, because the emperor wants a heir, and he was unsuccessful previously. He managed to get a daughter, so they were hoping for a son, and without disappointing them, she actually managed to give them a son. So her status immediately rise from empresses to grand empresses. And then the story continues. What really happens, and the strength of this book, is because she was in that power. You know, as I said before, there are 3,000 wives or so. They all want to be where she is. Every single one of them would be quite happy to see her dead. Maybe poison, or accident. Things happen, right, in Imperial Palace. They all want her dead. And so the remaining of the book, and what's really interesting element of this book, is how she managed to survive all these attempts. Not just surviving, but thriving in this really harsh environment. How she continues to capture the heart of the emperor, if not the bed of the emperor himself. And as her power grow, she start to stepping on more feet of the politicians. Now, in Imperial China, women has no player whatsoever in the political arena. But she was where she became precisely because she was very interested in the political intrigues. At the time, 1900s, 1866, or the 19th century, China was under tremendous pressure from the foreign powers. You know, the British, the French, the Germans. So there are 8 countries in total, and there were the Opium War, right? The period of Opium War. So the emperor was under lots and lots of pressure. He tried not to give more authority to the foreign powers, yet he was powerless to do so. And so the political period at that time was really, really messy. Everyone tried to grab a piece of China. And there are politicians within the court wants to resist this power by force. There are politicians in the court wants to resist this power by diplomacy. And she was involved in this. And again, the opinion differs. The politicians who has a different opinion to her wants to see her dead. Now, to make her situation even more powerless, and that happens to the later stage of the book, is that the emperor actually passed away. She was left alone. There are, as I said before, so many people within the palace want her dead. The politicians and other wives. She was able to survive that because she was clinging on to power through her son. Now, her son at the time of her husband's death was only, I think, 5 years old. So imagine a 5-year emperor. He was at that age to be readily manipulated by all these people who wish his mom harm. So it's a very, very interesting book. It's absolutely phenomenal. You're reading with sort of pinched breaths and turning the book like a thriller. You really want to know what happened next. And everything I have said in this video, in this book actually, was actually based on real history. Now, the Empress Orchid is famous throughout history. Empress Orchid is Cixi, and everyone in China knows who she is. The amount of power that she managed to grab and how she survived all the intrigues. So Cixi is a famous character, not perhaps well remembered, but certainly famous. So couple do read that book. It's absolutely phenomenal. This is the first part, and the second part is called The Last Empresses, and that's really about her life once she has secured the power. The first part is how she came to secure those power. A couple of things about the style of the book. The writer, she's a Cantonese. Even though all the imperial court speaks Mandarin at the time, her names in the books were all Cantonese, which is really, really annoying. I think the writer really should make some effort to actually put that in Mandarin, because that's what the real name is. That's the official language, and that's the name of those characters she was trying to depict. That part of the book really was exasperating. There are times I was rolling my eyes and sighing deeply and annoyed. The other thing that really gets on my nerve, and is still related with language, is Mandarin. The capital of China is Beijing. Yet time and time again, she puts Peking in there, and that's just driving me nuts. I hate the word Peking. It's not Peking, guys. It's Beijing. Okay, Beijing. It's not Peking. So the editor's fault to actually change that, because the story is based in Beijing, not Peking, and therefore the correct language should be used. I understand from non-Chinese perspective, this is probably not a big deal, but in the interest of accuracy, this should be observed and corrected. Apart from that, the book itself is absolutely amazing. I loved it. The intrigues, the styles, the flow of the language, the pauses, everything was really, really well done. I certainly will read the second part, and I highly suggest that you guys do read this book as well. Absolutely amazing. But that's it for this episode. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time. Whoa. Actually, before we sign off on that video, I want to add a little bit more about the characters of Cixi, aka Empress Orchid. You see, growing up in China, from our classrooms and from cinemas, we have always been told Cixi is someone who epitomizes the downfall and decline of the Chinese Empire. And she has sold parts of the territory to the foreign powers, so she was a symbol of corruption. All these sentiments are still true today, and they are historically correct. Now, what this book trying to do, however, is not rewrite history. On the other hand, is trying to add somewhat a more dimension to a 2D individual, making her more realistic, making her sort of a multifaceted individual rather than a 2D character that's been depicted in books. And because of that, I certainly have a more understanding of who she was. You know, she's someone who has her own fear, her own apprehension, her own sort of deepest fear, and that makes her more human, not just a symbol of corruption or a symbol of decline, but more of a human. And that's all I wanted to add to this video, and I do hope you enjoy watching this. Until next time, guys, cheerio.